Welcome to the Difference of 13 podcast, where we make a difference by doing it differently.
All right, podcast 8. We're just cranking through these, aren't we?
I'm just chilling. I'm going with a new look this week.
It's pretty spectacular.
Yeah, I was challenged to make the video more interesting.
Yes.
So this is about the extent of my imagination. So
Yeah.
It's definitely more interesting.
Here you go. I'm not sure I can keep this the same way the whole
Yeah,
time.
I'm not sure I can look at you while you're doing that.
If you're listening to this podcast, you definitely need to go see this on YouTube. I look
It's-
absolutely ridiculous.
It's awesome.
So, all right, yeah, I can't do this anymore.
No,
Sorry,
thank you.
Not
Tuck
my
that
look.
chain back.
Yeah,
Yeah.
tuck that chain back. So, welcome. We are so excited. We have one of our strength coaches with us, actually the strength coach,
Yes,
Alex.
What's up, guys?
So, we're going to we're going to brag on her a little bit. She's kind of like the strongest woman around.
yeah.
I mean, kind of. I mean, so North Carolina state champ not state champ, record holder, sorry. State champ is, I apologize.
It's all right.
Please don't deadlift me.
Please don't hurt us.
In deadlift and bench press. And she joined our team just about a little over a month ago. And we are super excited to have her. She's done amazing things with our programming.
Great addition.
Yes, a lot more and more women are joining our team.
I know. That's
I'm
why the
outnumbered.
team is getting better.
I can't dispute that. But Alex, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself? But today we're talking about mind over matter, and so that's why we thought it'd be great to have you on. You know, being a champion, a record holder like that, there's clearly going to be some mental elements that you've had to overcome and push through, and we're hoping that you can give some of our listeners some tips on that. But why don't you give us a little background on who you are, how you got here, and how the heck is the strongest woman in North Carolina? Why is she training golfers?
Yeah, definitely. So I am Alex Cassella. I'm from originally upstate New York and came down here about 3 years ago. Did the same thing up there that I'm doing down here. Started as I went to school most of the time up there, but for exercise science. Always wanted to be in the strength coaching realm. Always wanted to train athletes. Played basketball through college, and that was my main niche forever, and it was just my passion. So ultimately wanted to kind of continue training down that realm, train basketball players. And then just kind of got into all training general athletes. So
We got to play one-on-one. I didn't realize. I forgot you were a basketball player.
Yeah, for sure.
Sport too.
Yeah.
I haven't touched the ball in many years.
You've got a little bit of a height advantage on her.
That's true.
Everyone had a height advantage on me, though.
You two have that in common.
Right?
Yeah, for sure. It's all right.
So how'd you get into golf? Now you've got a pretty. One of the reasons we hired you is your resume and you've gotten to train under some pretty awesome coaches and leaders in the sport and performance world. Why don't you tell us a little bit about those experiences?
Yeah, I've been to quite a few places training under people. When I was in upstate New York, I was at Syracuse University interning under a couple of the strength coaches there for lacrosse and football.
What year were you up there?
This was, it was after I graduated college for the year, so like 2014.
Okay. My sister actually played lacrosse at.
Oh, really?
We're learning so much on that.
Yeah, there we go.
No.
Yeah,
So she would have graduated in maybe. Yeah, you guys might have overlapped. Were you there when Gary Gate was there? Was he the coach for the women's lacrosse team?
I don't think so.
Okay, maybe not then. Never mind. That
I
would
was
have been
just,
cool.
yeah, I was just there for the summer
So
too,
close.
like working summer camps
Okay.
and working the summer leagues and everything.
Cool.
So after that, like there's Lemoyne College, which is near Syracuse University as well. Worked under the strength coach there. Learned a ton there as well, and then shortly after that, moved down here. Got into personal training and interned under Mike Young at Athletic Lab close to here, who was also a fantastic coach. Definitely lucky to train under a lot of people, and ended up independent contracting as a trainer at a country club, and that's how I kind of got into the golf and tennis. Got more with the golf and tennis athletes. Worked for there about 8-9 months. And that was a challenge because it was definitely different than any kind of athlete I've ever trained. It's mostly like high intensity sports that I'm used to training, like the football, lacrosse, basketball. Challenging and different, but Did not hate it at all. Actually really enjoyed it and was kind of surprised to find that I did like it. So it was a good change.
And where, as a trainer, and where have you seen mind, you talk about mental blocks a lot in sports and just in health and wellness, where have you encountered that? You've obviously worked with an array of athletes. Where have you seen those blocks occur? What sort of strategies in either your, continuing professional development or just the strategies that you've seen other coaches use? What sort of stuff sticks out to your mind? I think the top couple of things that you've done that have been successful. Yeah,
all over the place. I mean, mindset is huge, especially for athletes. I mean, you can go into practice or a game having the crappiest day. If your mind's not there, you're not going to perform. So I've seen a lot of athletes use things such as meditation or just their own routine kind of to hype themselves up, get themselves in that mindset. I know for myself, I'm the same. Like, if my mindset's not there, you're not going to have the best day of training. It's great to kind of see how different athletes cope with it. It's just for general population too, training just weight loss clients. I think it's more accountability that really keeps their mindset going as a personal trainer, having someone to go to every day. The people that you're around on a daily basis, I think, has the most impact on your mindset as an athlete or general just weight loss person. They say you're the average of the 5 closest people you hang out with or something. I think that has a big thing to do with people's attitudes and mindsets on a day-to-day basis. So I've seen a lot of people who are just, because they train with a trainer, they have that accountability, they're ready to go. They have a bad day, but they come in and their mindset's there because they know they have those people around them who are pushing them, supporting them, and that helps with their mindset, helps with their training, helps with their performance. What about, obviously, the stellar athlete that you are?
Yes.
Maybe you can speak to those who are not as athletically gifted as you. I think mental blocks apply across all age groups, across all sports, business, even just parenting. And mindset is just huge in terms of being happy. I think talking about, I don't know, what's it called, the book Flow.
Flow, yes.
And just kind of the keys to being happy, the prerequisites for being happy. What sort of, in your experience in life or people you've dealt with, where have you seen mindset play an important role?
Well, I mean, in everything really, and that whole idea of what's going to, a lot of the book of Flow is about what's going to make me happy. Some people think it's, when I get that next promotion, when I get the Gucci handbag, and it gets down to, it's not those things. It's something that comes from within. And so you can have people who are living very meagerly and they're incredibly happy because it's a mindset. It's a way of thinking of, I'm still here, I'm still alive, so that's good. And the thought of the Gucci handbag doesn't even register with them. And that's why you have all these super wealthy people who end up, very unhappy with their lives because they keep chasing that next thing that might be the key to happiness when it's really how you look at things.
I'm not even going to attempt to pronounce the author's name. But,
no, we'll put it in the notes because it's very long and.
Yeah, so we'll put the link in the notes. Actually, I've listened to it on Audible. That's if you guys listen to audiobooks, it's a great one to listen to. But let's jump into kind of your training and your path, as it were, to becoming the strongest woman in North Carolina. What challenges did you have? How did you overcome them? Take us on that journey. Yeah. So after the collegiate basketball experience, which was great. Obviously I wasn't going off to the WNBA or anything, so, but I stayed competitive. At
5'3", that wasn't an option?
5'4".
5'4", I'm sorry.
With shoes.
An inch. Yeah, exactly. So, but I've always been competitive by nature, and losing that competition was really hard, so it was I still stayed in the gym. was introduced to powerlifting by the people I was just training with. Was naturally pretty good at it. I've just always been pretty strong, always been built genetically, and so started to fall in love with that. Worked on it for 3 years very consistently. I broke a couple records in New York, like the first time I competed, which was very motivating and kept my mindset really strong and wanting more.
So your first ever competition, you're just setting records.
Yeah, as a junior,
insane.
a junior in New York. Yeah, so like I said, that was just like, I can be really good at this. So
That's awesome.
Going on with mindset, I think when you have that passion, that fire was kind of lit under my butt, and I had a passion for it to be the best. So that kept me training, and it made me happy too. Like, I love the people I was training with. I love the feeling of getting stronger. I didn't really know, from New York to North Carolina at that time, I didn't know where I was going to go. So stress and anxiety, but lifting really had a lot to do with helping me overcome that and make decisions on where I wanted to take my life. So I think when you really have a passion for something and see it through, it can help you in all aspects of life. So came down here, stayed competing. Probably since I've been down here, I've gotten the strongest. From just in the past 2 years, I've put on more on my total than I ever have. And it's just, training to me is, I make it the most challenging, hardest part of my day and keep that mindset. Like everything else, it helps with. It helps make it seem easy. Every other stress, because training's a stress, right? So when you overcome stress in training, it helps me overcome stress in life, and that's how I really see it.
You get that sense of accomplishment. Like if I can lift, I don't know how much you lift, but big heavy things.
About,
Yeah.
5 U's.
Yeah, a lot of me. If I can lift these big heavy things, well, then that problem at work is not such a big problem. I can manage that too.
Exactly.
That kind of success breeds more success.
Yeah, exactly. Like you said, if I can squat 300 pounds on my back, I can overcome this stress that I have at home in life. Like, I very much relate stress in life to stress in training, and how it's very metaphoric, and how if you overcome that stress, you can overcome anything.
Well, I think, you're saying about parenting, I think that's an important lesson to teach our children, is that you need to let them struggle with some things and have that sense of success, that I worked for it. And they're going to stumble and fall, sometimes literally, along the way. But that's okay. It's better to do those things while they're little and sort of build that resilience of, I worked hard, I failed a little bit, but I kept going, and now I've achieved some success. If I can do that with, learning how to ride a bike, and I scrape my knee and I live to tell about it, then as they get older, those challenges can be bigger and they're better able to handle those. But if we shelter them from every trauma, then they never learn.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's one of the biggest things I see in training with our kids. I mean, obviously we train golfers, so we have some families and kids that are pretty well off, and I think you probably see it a little bit more so in that demographic. But these sheltered kids that, God forbid anything bad happened to them, and it's like no, let them screw up. Like why? It's like, mom and dad, back up.
Right.
Yeah.
Let the kid go shoot, a million over par. Let them just get, dragged up and down the course. Let them, work their butt off. And I think the people that you see that struggle with that mindset, they do not end up being elite athletes. They don't end up being super, super successful in the business world or just in life.
Right.
Because they're not taught that being uncomfortable is okay. And in fact, I think that when we talk about flow, I think, a true flow experience, sort of what you're experiencing with when you lift, is you get so immersed in it. The challenge of that is equivalent to you and your abilities, and you struggle, and you kind of lose yourself. You lose a sense of time in that moment. But then when you come out of it, you actually gain a better sense of who you are and what you can do.
Yeah.
And that's actually one of the tests I do with our kids when they're new, and I'll just put a bunch of weight on sleds. I'll put a heavy sled and a light sled, and I'll just tell them, push the heavy one down, sprint the light one back, and just tell them to keep doing it, and just see when they fail. And I will tell you, the greatest players that I have will not stop until I tell them. Like, they are literally pushing it on their knees.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But the softies, for lack of a better term, I mean, they do too, and they're like, oh my goodness, this is so hard, I can't do it.
Yeah.
And that to me tells me what kind of athlete and what type of person am I dealing with. And I think there's definitely a very close relationship. I don't know statistically if there's a direct relationship, but there certainly is a trend where the kids that are sheltered and kind of mom and dad take care of every mistake that they make. They try to fix every problem that the kid has. Those are the kids that quit quickly. The kids that have had to fight for it, they're the kids that rise to the cream of the crop.
Yeah. When my kids were in school, a teacher gave some of the best advice I'd ever heard. She said, especially like, upper elementary school, middle school, when the kids pretty much have a good sense of like, okay, I'm fairly smart, I'm good at school. If they're struggling in a class, let them fail. Because then they will learn from that. Like, first off, I'm not the smartest kid in the class. I can fail, but I can also recover from failure. Because newsflash, middle school grades don't count. Nobody cares. Nobody's ever going to see those grades. They will live to tell the story.
Yeah, how many parents go in complaining and fighting?
Right,
and
they got an
arguing?
A-. Can't you bump it up to an A? Yeah.
Like, don't you have
It's
something better to do?
no. If they don't get that project done and they fail that project, they will live and they will learn.
Yeah. No, I think you're right. It's important to experience failure and know that it's okay, and then they'll learn when they do succeed how good that's going to feel. Know that they can overcome that failure. It's an important lesson to learn, especially when you're young and the kids coming in here. That builds the mental toughness. For sure.
Well, I think talking from a business perspective, if you don't fail, what are you doing? Like, you have to fail, and I think it's important to teach them how to fail, right?
Right.
You fail forward, you learn from it. And I just had this conversation with Ted the other week of a new therapist with us, Bobby, who will be on very shortly.
Yes, yay, Bobby.
And but talking about they're, from an experience wise, they haven't been PTs as long, and even me, I've been a PT 10 years at this point. I still screw up, and I'm gonna miss something, or and that's just a part of being a professional. As me as a therapist, I'm going to miss stuff. As a strength coach, you're going to screw something up at some point. You're going to forget to bill somebody
or bill them the wrong amount.
But as long as we can take that mistake and learn from it and say, okay, I'm not going to miss the next one, or I'm going to build a system so I don't bill the wrong amount, or whatever it may be. I think that's the single most important thing that we can teach somebody. And I think that when we talk about mind over matter, it's knowing that I'm going to fail 7, 8, 9, 10 times, but those are stepping stones.
Right.
Yeah. I don't know who said it. It was like, I've failed every single day in my life, and that's why I've succeeded.
So, that's a phenomenal quote.
Yeah. Well, I would always, when one of my boys would get, or students that I worked with, they'd get upset, like, oh, I'm going to fail this class, or, I'm going to fail this test. And I would always ask them, let's say you do fail. What is going to happen? Well, I might have to retake the class. I might have to do this. I might have to do it. Okay, you're going to still live. You're going to still go on. You have options. Even if you fail out of school, you still have options, and you have to recognize that unless you die, you can still go on. So you can't let it get in your head, because then you will fail. And have a plan for what happens if I fail out of school.
Yeah. Well, I think Sissy had given us a pretty interesting study she found. I think it just speaks to the power of the mind and kind of having the right mindset. It was a scientist or researcher, Harvard psychologist Ellen Langer. She did an experiment on a group of predominantly overweight hotel maids, and they were kind of, judged by their activity levels, they should have been relatively thin and healthy because they're walking all over the place. But what she found is that 67% of the maids felt like they didn't do any type of exercise. So her prediction in the study was that their perceptions were hampering their weight loss. So what she did is she took half of the maids, and in addition to taking their physical measurements, she explained that through their cleaning work, they were exceeding the Surgeon General's definition of an active lifestyle. And then the other half of the maids, they took their measurements, but they didn't give them any information. So 4 weeks later, a month later, Langer basically returned to the hotel and reevaluated the maids. And what they found was pretty amazing. She found that there was an overall decrease in blood pressure, weight, and waist to hip ratio in the educated group versus the other group had no significant physical changes. So
That's very interesting.
yeah, so I guess there's some dispute that some suspect that the mere discussion of exercise somehow altered the women's behavior. But Langer said there was no indication that any of the maids modified their routines, and she felt the results were due simply to the change in mindset. So I haven't read the study. I don't know I'm sure somebody listening out there knows the validity of that and all that. But I think that's just a cool kind of thought, that the way you think and perceive yourself. I mean, certainly I know, if you talk about the science and the chemicals, and the more stressed you are, and the more, cortisol levels are going up, and that's going to decrease your ability from a body composition standpoint to build more lean mass. And I don't know, what are your thoughts on that, Alex?
That's very powerful, and I think it's true. I've seen studies like that before, just kind of giving people that thought, that mindset. Releases more of those hormones and just kind of creates a better habit for them, helps them. It's usually habits that people have the hardest time with, and it's really just kind of changing that mindset to change the habit. And I feel like that's a huge part of doing that. So
I wonder if when they were told, hey, the work that you're doing every day is exercise, what you're doing is good for your body, it's like running laps or whatever, if they started putting a little more kind of
effort into
and you stand up a little, like, hey, I am working hard, I am doing good stuff, and you kind of stand up a little taller, you might lift things a little more enthusiastically, and I wonder if that possibly played into it a little bit.
I mean, certainly there's been lots of studies done about the power postures and the changes in chemical levels that gives you, before you go into an interview, and sitting up tall, kind of puffing your chest out, doing those posturings. And
I try to sit up tall, but
we all kind of adjusted ourselves.
I only got to start with here.
Yeah, no, I think like happier people are also like prone to having like a higher metabolic rate, so things like that can, like little things that can take into account like that.
Yeah, well, I know with having multiple surgeries, there's times where I wasn't allowed to do a whole lot, and the inclination is definitely to sit in bed in my jammies all day and watch Netflix, because doesn't that sound like fun? But I always forced myself to get up every day, take a shower, put on clothes, and at least get up and walk around multiple times a day. So it wasn't exercise. I was still very limited in my activity, but I didn't feel like a patient. I didn't feel like I was just laying in bed all day. And I think that made a difference in recovery.
Definitely.
When I can speak, to my recovery after the open heart surgery, I think, I dealt with some depression afterwards. Cardiac depression is pretty normal, particularly for younger guys, for some reason.
Yeah. Surprise.
But I think the mindset then was, I'm a victim, like what the heck, this is not what they told me it was going to be. And until I kind of made that conscious decision to, all right, enough complaining, as my wife says, get out of the wallow pool. And kind of, all right, I'm going to go exercise. And even if that means right now I can't do my normal workout, but I can go do something for 10 minutes. And then that 10 minutes turned into 12, and that turned into 20. And, now at this point I can do double, where I'll go work out in the morning and then go play speed golf at night, and I'm okay. And that, I think kind of making those incremental changes and that mindset that I am empowered to do what I want to do, and forcing. I think forcing is a good term, because sometimes you have to say, get your butt out of bed.
Right? Go take a shower, put on real clothes, get out of your pajamas. And it really, the days where you stay in your jammies all day, you feel like a slug. You feel like you can't do anything. But if you force yourself to get up and don't lay in the bed, go lay on the sofa. At least it's a change of venue. It's not where you sleep.
Right. Well, I think it was interesting to me in the book Flow, he talked about you could even make watching TV a flow activity. He talks about TV in itself. We think about, we work all day, we get home, we're tired, we just want to sit and relax and let our brain shut off. And then actually happier people go home and they have something that puts them or produces that flow state, whether it be sewing or doing yard work or something that just they kind of lose themselves in. That most people, after the first half hour on TV, you're bored, you're on your phone, you're doing other things,
right?
You're just, but if you're watching a
say a crime show or a drama, and you can kind of actively engage with that, and you're trying to say, okay, well, who's this person going to be? If it's a mystery, or that you can, to a degree, find a sort of state of flow, but trying to be engaged and active in everything you do. Otherwise, you feel like a slug, you feel like a waste of life, and then it just perpetuates itself.
Exactly.
'Cause then you wake up the next morning like, I didn't
It's
do
just a
anything
habit
yesterday.
at that point.
Yeah.
So, any other
No,
words of wisdom and mindset?
I think we need to wrap this one up. Though it's an interesting topic, I think it's worth revisiting again.
Definitely, yeah.
Yeah, for sure. I think we'll definitely get into at some point kind of our. We can talk about our horror stories of mindsets after surgeries.
Yes.
And we can talk about. That's for another episode.
Yeah.
So, but stay tuned next week, guys. We have a huge announcement coming up. We are doing something big as a company and as a business,
Yes.
and we all know, and you don't. So you have to tune in next week. But like I said, as always, 5 stars.
5.
on SoundCloud, on iTunes, wherever you're listening. Thumbs up so Terry doesn't get sad. I'm going to continue to use that. And anything else? I mean, we'll have in the notes, we will have links to the book Flow. We'll link up the study here about the maids, as well as we can put the study in about the power postures. That's so I think there's actually a TED Talk on that. That's very interesting to watch too.
Okay, wrap it up.
So sorry. Bye guys. See you next week.
Bye.